bulletin. This morning you will find two. Here's one. Great. Thanks, Nigel. So the first one is this. It is that we're going to winter camp in February. That's for everybody who's in 7th and 8th grade, 9th through 12th grade, all that. It's a really fun time. We'll be at Heartland, so just fill this out and put it into the offering as it passes. The second thing is that this summer, the CMA is doing their National Youth Conference in Orlando, Florida, and so we'll be participating in that. And so you have more information here, and you can email me if you have a teenager that you want to sign up for that. That is for people going into 9th grade through leaving 12th grade. And it's going to be a great time. There will be over 6,000 other CMA students there. They'll get to connect with people from all over the CMA, all over the world. And so it's going to be an awesome time. So sign your students up, and it will be great. This morning, I'm hoping you guys will be willing to do some things a little bit differently with me. And so some of you just were like, nope, not doing that. But hopefully you will anyways. So this morning, it's the last Sunday of the year, so it's designated Youth Pastors Preach on Sunday weekend, so that's pretty cool. And then also, it's the last Sunday of the year. So what we're going to do is we are going to remember this past year and celebrate it. So what I want you to do is to find a partner. It can be someone you came with, I guess, but that's not nearly as fun. So if you're feeling really adventurous, look behind you and find a partner. That'd be cool. If not, find a partner. Some of you are still looking at me like I'm not doing this. Hopefully, just take a sec. I know some of you are like, there were so many good things, or it was all bad. But just think of something and tell that to that person. Okay, it hasn't exactly been a minute, but if you're not done with your first story, please switch and have the other person tell you their best part of the year. Okay, since it seems like you guys are all quieting down, I'm going to assume you're done. You guys can look back this way. That's going to be your partner. You're going to have a partner later, and so that'll be important. For me and my family, a lot of our favorite memories this year have been with all of you. Tuesday marks a year since we moved to Visalia, so we will have been, yeah, it's pretty cool. Favorite memory of 2018 was after junior high camp. I got to baptize someone, so that was pretty cool. That was the first time I've baptized someone since I have been in history. And so today, as you are thinking about this past year, and so hopefully that exercise helped you think about this past year, because you're going to need to do that later too. Today, as we look back on this year, I want to trace a theme through Scripture for and how it works throughout Scripture. And so for that, my title today is The Remedy of Remembrance. Now, I know we have children here today, so remedy is kind of like medicine. It fixes things. So we are going to be looking at what remembering the things God has done helps fix in our lives. So there's going to be 4 things that are remedied by remembrance. And those 4 things are rebellion, self-righteousness, hopelessness, and complacency. So those are going to be our 4 things. But we're going to jump right into Joshua chapter 4. Joshua chapter 4 is the Israelites have been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. And Joshua is now their leader. We're going to start reading here in verse 8. Until everything was completed that the Lord had commanded Joshua to tell the people. In keeping with all that Moses had commanded, Joshua for war across the plains of Jericho. The Lord told Joshua, command the priests who carry the ark, the testimony of the testimony, to come up from the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, come up from the Jordan. And when the priests carrying the ark of the Lord's covenant came up from the middle of the Jordan, and their feet stepped out onto solid ground, the water of the Jordan resumed its course, flowing over the banks as before. The people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and camped in Gilgal on the eastern limits of Jericho. Then Joshua set up in Gilgal the 12 stones that they had taken from the Jordan, and he said to the Israelites, in the future, when your children ask their fathers, what is the meaning of these stones, you should tell your children, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the water of the Jordan before you until you had crossed over, just as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until we had crossed over. So this is so that all the people of the earth may know that the Lord's hand is mighty, and so that you may always fear the Lord your God. And so notice what Joshua tells the people about the stones from the Jordan. He tells them the reason God wanted us to do this wasn't for your benefit. It was so that when generations to come see these stones, they'll say to their fathers, why are these here? And you can remember what God did for you. And when you tell them, he says, God's hand will be shown as being mighty throughout all the earth, and you will fear the Lord forever. That when we remember the things that God has done for us, it has an impact on those around us. And it also tells us another thing. It's not enough just to think about things God has done for you. You have to proclaim them. You have to tell someone about them, which is why you have a partner. So you guys are going to be, some of you are going to be really nervous by the end of this. You have a partner for this reason, claiming it to other people. When we take communion, we read the words of Jesus, and he says, this do in remembrance of me. And then Paul says something similar, but doesn't use those same words. What he says is, whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. They're tied together. You are remembering when you take communion that the work that secured your salvation is done. But also, when you take communion, the people around you can see you take communion, and they know that person believes Jesus died for their sins. That person believes that they have salvation through Jesus Christ alone. That person believes this. And so in that way, you are remembering and proclaiming. And so when we're looking at remembrance today, I just want you to be thinking about that when we are remembering, it is always tied to telling someone about it. It's not simply writing it down in a journal and keeping that hidden forever, and then no one knows what things you think God has done in your life. The important thing is that you remember the things, and when someone asks you, how has God worked in your life? You say, this is how, and at this place, and this time, and when I was this age, all of these places are places where God worked in my life. And another thing you should notice is one of the things it says is when your children ask their fathers, they will tell them. And so throughout Scripture, worked in their lives. And so if you're a parent here today, it is your job to proclaim to your children the way God has worked in your life. It is my job to proclaim to my children the way God has worked in my life, and it is your job to proclaim to your children how God has worked in your life and how he